This program is brought to you in part by SalCal Real Estate Connections. Yes, welcome to Race in Action today, as we have very special guest today with USCRA Vintage Racer, Bob Demetrius. And Bob, you got certainly an interesting history with this vintage racing. Not only that, you have beautiful bikes, and we're very interested tonight to know how you build some of these bikes.
Well, happy to share that, Larry, and thanks for having me here. So the short story for me is I'm a reasonably accomplished mechanic, but I'm not a master mechanic. And so I learned early on. I started racing in '89 and was okay. You know, did things, broke things, learned things. But there was this one guy and this one team that was always, when they showed up, they were always at the top of the podium, and that was Mach 1. And Pete Talabak, who is the proprietor of Mach 1, and then his rider, Greg Nichols was his rider. And when they showed up, any race that they entered that 350 Ducati, they were going to win. So I was in Shubenacadie, which is in Nova Scotia. We were racing up there in 1999. I was racing my TZ250, and I threw it away in a turn, and so it was done for the weekend. And I was talking with Pete, and I had my 350. And so I just proposed and said, you know, geez, Pete, maybe you could take my 350 in and we could build a race bike with it. And so that began the relationship that I've had with Pete and Mach 1, and now Andy Townsend, who is one of the new partners with Mach 1. And so the 350 has been an amazing odyssey with Pete and Mach 1. And so it started out as a stock 350 engine. And we have, I say we, but Pete has built and fabricated virtually every part of that motorcycle from axle to axle, and made it into what's called a super vintage thoroughbred formula race bike. Wow. And so it's a stock 350 Honda. When they came from the factory, a CB350 was good for roughly 28 or 29 horsepower.
That's right, yep.
The bike that I have today, after Pete has got done with it, and is the current bike is about 45 horse, which is outrageous to know that you can almost double the horsepower.
That's special, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So now you got off to a good start then of building bikes with him.
I did. So one of the things that's interesting about certainly with Pete and Mach 1, but I think with anyone on your, if you're not a natural, if you're just not a born natural road racer, or if you're not a born natural hockey player, right? You need good coaching, and that really was the in my opinion, despite his amazing knowledge and ability as a fabricator and builder, and he was an amazing coach. So how he helped me, I think, mostly was, so he would explain to me, well, when you're going into this turn, for example, so case in point, so I went into a corner, I lost the front end, and it slid out, and I crashed, and the rest is you're picking up yourself, you're picking up the bike, and you're trying to kick it straight and fix all the stuff that's broken on it. And so Pete would sit down with me and say, so what's going on here is you came into the corner, too much front brake, too late, you let the brake go too much, you were into the corner too deep, you didn't allow the suspension to time to catch up. So he would explain to me everything that was going on.
The technical aspect of the whole thing.
And once he explains it to you, if you can put that into your head and process that, you're like, okay, I got it. And then don't do that the next. And he would say, so when you get to this position, you got to do this, or your bike is doing this, you got to do this. And conversely, when I would come in and say, the bike is doing this in this particular turn, and he would say, I know what I need to adjust, and he would make adjustments, or we would make edits to it.
Wow.
And everything would just progressively make us go faster and faster and faster.
So he had pretty good knowledge to begin with. What would work and what wouldn't.
Yeah, he's a master fabricator, master mechanic. He has built so on that 350 as we made it into a full thoroughbred race bike. So for example, the air box that the carburetors go into. So we chose to make a closed air box versus just having open carburetors with velocity stacks, because the CV carbs like undisturbed air. So he hand hammered and made an aluminum air box.
You're kidding.
And the header pipes on the bike are stainless steel. He made them.
You got to explain that to me. They don't like open air?
They like undisturbed air.
Okay.
So if you have open velocity stacks, that's creating a Venturi effect and so if you have a modern carburetor, if you have say an FCR or a flat slide carburetor, they're engineered that they like that Venturi flue. But the older carburetors, the vintage period that we run with, they don't like that. They like undisturbed air. They don't like having all that turbulence. And so you have open air around those, and it's turbulent air that it's trying to suck in. So we still have the bell, we still have the velocity stack, but it's not fighting any turbulence to create that Venturi to suck that charge in.
See, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that.
Yeah, and it works. It works. It definitely made us faster. Stainless steel headers, because stainless steel is a terrible conductor of heat. It holds it in, it doesn't get rid of it. But that's the idea, is you keep your exhaust gas velocities hot, which means they evacuate faster, which means you suck the charge out of the cylinder without not making the piston do as much work, getting more horsepower.
It's taking it out without working the piston.
That's right. So don't expend any horsepower on things that you don't need to. Right. Have the exhaust gas velocity suck out.
That's an interesting thing in itself. Yeah. I would have never thought that either.
Yeah. He said one day we were working, and he said, I think we can take some weight off the front axle, and so. The less weight you can have on your axles, the better it is. The lighter you can make your wheels, the better it is. And so he literally machined the ends of Chiriani sliders to fit the cartridges of the Honda fork tubes. So we have he made them. So they're Chiriani sliders on Honda fork tubes, and we took almost 4 pounds off the axle.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So when people look at the motorcycle, it is pretty. I mean, I think it's a beautiful race bike. But when people come up and look at it, I always tell them that everything that you're looking at, nothing is by accident. Yeah. Everything that you're looking at was a definite choice and a definite idea.
Oh, wow! I had no idea that. Those are the things that really. Oh wow! That is special.
We have really looked at every detail on that motorcycle that we could enhance and improve, and it has. It's a pretty special bike.
Now,
it's pretty fast.
Do you find people copying or trying to copy what you're doing?
Maybe. I'm not so sure. I don't take a lot of time looking at other people's bikes. I kind of focus on my program. So as you know, I have 3 bikes generally that I'll show up at the racetrack with, and so that's a full day and a full plate. When I'm
sure it is.
So I'm one of those. If you want to really get on that edge, and you want to make sure that you can at least vie for a chance to win the race, everything matters, right? So I watch the air density and the barometric pressure. I jet up and down on the carburetors depending on what that percentage drop is. So I'm really fine tuning and adjusting the bikes throughout the day.
So you find temperature makes a big difference?
Less so on 4-stroke motorcycles, definitely on 2-stroke motorcycles. Okay. But even still, if you're looking at getting every bit of performance, yes, on 4 strokes it makes.
You got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Now, how about tires? The tire pressure change much, or do you fool around with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Larry. So everyone. I think that you'll find that generally people will run similar tire pressures, but then based on your riding style and the bike and how hard you might push into a corner, your particular pressures will start to vary. So ultimately, for the street-based race tires, the treaded tires that don't have blank tire warmers on them to get them up to temperature, you want about a 10% pressure rise. And so you start out and you measure your tire pressures before you go out, and then you account that you want a 10% gain.
So by the end of the race, it's going to be at a certain.
Yeah, usually by the end of the first lap you can be up, but you generally have to. I don't take my first lap at 120%. I take that first lap at 115%, and then after that I know the tires are good and warm, and then I'll go full tilt 120.
So it's important then to really get a good feeling right off the bat.
Yeah, you can push too hard and you'll lose the front end, and so particularly New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That you don't, so you have a half of a straightaway, you go right into a series of corners. And so you're asking a lot of the tire that it hasn't gotten up to temperature. And so if you push too hard, you'll just push it off and crash.
So it's important to be in control.
Yeah. The other bikes have slicks on them, and they have tire warmers that you put on them before the race. They're already up to temperature, and you can go as hard as you want right from the get-go.
Now, what kind of tire are they, the slicks?
So slicks are very much just like the Formula One tires that you see. There's no tread on them. They're like a big gumball. They're very soft. And so Pirelli, Dunlop are the predominant, and Michelin, Bridgestone are the predominant makers in this area, in this country. Mm-hmm. I run Pirellis, but they're all, frankly, probably all the same. The reason I choose Pirellis is that for my SV, my 650, the rear tire is about 4 pounds lighter than a Dunlop. And so we talked earlier about getting weight off the axle.
Yeah.
If shedding 4 pounds off a rear tire is a lot when it's spinning at,
rotating. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Now, they don't last long, though. Right?
They don't. So slicks, the harder you are on them, the fewer laps you get out of them. I would consider myself in the top tier, but I'm not a AMA Pro or a Moto Twins Pro. The pro guys and gals are changing, and there are some fast gals out there. They're changing their slicks every practice session, every race. Fresh rubber every time.
Yeah. Well, they got the big sponsors behind them.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and they can afford that. But you're looking at $380 some odd for a pair. So when you're weekend warriors like us, that's a lot of money to think about. You're going to try to get a couple of race weekends out of them, let alone just one practice and be done with them.
And that helps those. When you could change a tire like that, anytime you want. That's got to be a big advantage.
It is, because so psychologically in your mind, you can go 120%. All the time,
all the time.
But whereas I know that I'm 2 heat cycles into these babies, I'm not so sure I can. And so when you get into the thick of it, right? If you're 2 or 3 riders and you start battling in corners, you'll pick it up and you'll try to do what you got to do. But if you're 3 cycles or it's a third weekend on those slicks, and that guy or gal just put fresh slicks on, and she or he are going a little bit hotter than you feel comfortable, and there's a reason for that, because they know they've got better grip.
Yeah. Tires sometimes big difference.
Yeah.
And now this race, when you get in your class for the 350, how many laps usually is the race?
So they range. They're called sprints, and depending on the track and depending on the organizations, the USCRA, which is the Northeast club that we race with, they generally run between 6 to 8 laps, and ARMA, AHRMA, is the national organization, vintage, but they run nationally across the country, at tracks across country, and similar 6 to 8. They used to be more laps in the races, but as the years have gone on, they've added more classes to the program, and so there's more bikes on the track at a given time, which means they have to kind of shorten the races a little bit to let everyone get in.
So there's more than one class on the track.
That's right, Larry. Okay. So depending on the race, there could be as much as 4 different races on the track at the same when you're out there, and so they'll separate them by waves, and in some cases, so you'll have some cases they may take all 3 or all 4 classes and send them off at the same time. And in some cases, they may send one or two,
stagger it.
wait for 15 to 20 seconds until that group clears the first series of turns, and then let the next group go.
Okay. I was wondering how to handle that, you know?
Yeah, it can be a little confusing if you're a spectator and new at it, because you'll look and see all the, and so sometimes clubs will, so for the particular class you're in, they'll tell you that your racing plate has to be a particular color, say white plates with black numbers, or yellow plates with black numbers, or blue plates with white numbers. Yeah. And that's historically, that was to help the scorers. So you had real human beings at the start-finish line.
No transponders.
And they're writing down this one as they go by. And, and they know the plate colors are different classes, and that helps them not get mixed up about who's lapping who and where. But to your point, Larry, yeah, today we run transponders, which is just a little RFID signal pinging, and it tells you exactly where you are and exactly where you finished, and it's a lot easier.
Well, that made it simpler, right?
It sure did, yeah.
I can't get over, the different things you have to do. And now the class, I think that we have to run in would be Formula CB, I think, 350.
Yeah.
Is the bikes in that class, are they predominantly stock or no?
They are. So Formula CB is designed to be the all-encompassing production stock entry race program, right? So it's a great program so that you get yourself a Honda CB350, and you can get out there, and you can expect to be maybe 15 to 20 folk riders on the grid. So you get a great grid of riders to have fun with and race with. The idea is you keep the motors stock, so everyone's at the same level, and they all get to learn, sharpen their experience. And so some folks may choose to stay in the Formula CB class because it's a great class, a lot of fun. Some people may choose to move on to go to other classes. Mm-hmm. And I started back, I think it was in 1999 or 2000, I started in Formula CB with my 350. And the reason why Pete at Mach 1, why we decided to build a super vintage bike, was I said to him one day, I'm waiting for the turns. And he said, yeah, we need to get you more motor. And so that was the point where I made the jump to, and then we built the super vintage motor, and then I wasn't waiting for the turns anymore. No. They were coming pretty quick. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Originally, when we started building the bike, we were going to run CB, Formula CB, and then wanted to run historic production in Arma.
Yep.
And I thought it would be a good deal for Devin being a novice,
Yep.
But I don't know if that's the right thing to be looking at.
I think so there's a lot of value and a lot of things that make it a great sense, especially so it's probably one of the least expensive programs that you can have fun with, right? So stock motors, pump gas, and everyone's got the same thing. So you can mix up and dice with people and have fun, and different skill levels can have fun, and they can be great. You can stay in that class and have a lot of fun. And it's the same for Arma. So it gives you a great platform. It's not overly expensive. It's fairly easy to get into, right? When you decide, in my particular case, when I said to Pete that I was waiting for the corners, when you build a full formula race bike, that's a different story, because everything you do they have to go machine the heads and change the pistons and take the sleeves out of the cylinder and press in aluminum sleeves, nickel them, undercut the gears and the gearbox, everything. You have to take the whole motor apart and edit and change and add pretty much everything to everything. And that's a lot of expense to do that. Oh, yeah. But then you have a motor that you have to run race fuel in. So instead of getting whatever it is, $4 pump gas, you're buying $20 a gallon race fuel. So everything exponentially you have to weigh in what you really want to do.
Yeah. Well, for people watching, to start out, the stock motor, I think, is the best thing to start, don't you?
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic starting platform. and you can have great fun. And like I said, you can stay there, and there's a lot of folks that have great fun, and that's the class they run. And
now,
it's
the other question I have: does it have to be an older bike, or could you run a new bike?
Yeah, great question, Larry. No, so you don't have to. So the idea initially behind the USCRA was to preserve historic racing, pedigree racing bikes. As time has moved forward, so too the years move forward, and so bikes that are in the 80s are now vintage qualified. Yeah. And so for example, ARMA and the USCRA both have classes for current or reasonably current modern bikes. So the SV650 is one.
Yep.
The Ninja 400s is another one, and the Ducati, the 390 Dukes, stock bikes, great classes.
Yeah, I've seen people talking about the newer bikes, and I said, geez, I wonder if they're legal, but they are.
Yep.
So,
you can go to the website of each of those companies, racing organizations.
Like a Ninja 400 really is not an expensive bike, right?
No, they're a great platform. They're super compliant, super fast. They're fantastic. And the 400 Ninjas are faster than the SV650s.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's special.
And easy to buy. And that's the other thing. If you're interested, if you think, hey, I'd like to try this out, you can go pick up an SV or pick up a 400, and in one weekend you can safety wire it and be ready and go take the school and go have fun.
Yeah. I think that's the way to go, really, because the old bikes are great. Don't get me wrong, I love them, but you have to really. They're not easy to work on sometimes, number one, and you can't find parts, number two.
Right. It's a passion and a love, and I love my 350, and I will always race my 350. Yeah. But it's a passion and a commitment, because to your point,
absolutely,
you got to find the parts.
But I will say this, through my experiences, I would go to a local Honda dealer, get a part, even if they did not have the part, they would tell me what dealer in the country would have that part?
Yeah.
Without even worried about it.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to find it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And today, with the internet, if you poke around enough, you can find some resources in the internet. There are some organizations and groups that are for the Honda specifically. Yeah. I think Commonwealth Honda is an online source that sells some of the hard to find parts. They still get them and source them. Yeah.
Well, they're popping up more and more, I'm noticing.
Yeah.
You're seeing it more.
Yeah.
And the 350, I love it. I'll tell you, that bike, that Honda, I love that 350.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great bike. They are almost bulletproof. I say almost by nothing is bulletproof. Yeah. But the stock format, virtually bulletproof. Even when you build them, as I built mine, virtually bulletproof, although I did blow one up, and it can be done, but and it's expensive.
Oh yeah. I get the biggest kick out of you bring it to a car show or once in a while, and that people will say to me, "Oh, I had that bike."
Yeah.
Yep. It's just like a memory thing. Yep. My God, oh, I had that bike.
Yep. It is a great. To your point, I've had at races. So as you know, the orange 350, which is my bike, is pretty fast, and I generally will find at races where there's lots of spectators, particularly Alabama at Barber, where there's like 65 and 75,000 spectators, that during the practice days, when people come into the pits, they'll come in, they'll want to look at the bike. And the funniest thing is they'll look at the bike and like, God, that's, like, what is that? And I'm like, it's a 350. And they're astonished. They're like, that's only a 350? I'm like, yeah. Like, wow, it's fast for a 350. Yeah, it's pretty fast.
Oh, yeah. That bike's gorgeous. I tell you about it. Really, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. It's pretty special. It's a very special bike.
And I was shocked talking to Henry, but I've been to his house. we worked on the bike up there, and bikes everywhere. The other day I said to him, "How many bikes do you own?" "Oh, about 7 dozen."
Yeah. It can be a bit of an issue for us, right? So I have sold one of my race bikes, but only one. And all of the ones that I have had through the years and raced, I still have. And one of them, my 125, is in the house, and my 250, my TZ 250, it's almost ready to go back. I pulled it all apart and was in the process of restoring it. And one of the gentlemen that we raced with, Steve D'Angelo, who's a phenomenal painter, and he's the one who paints all my body work. And he painted the body work of the TZ to the factory Bumblebee specs.
Oh, wow.
And at the time when I was doing this, I was working for a short bit for the American Motorcycle Association. And Merrill Vanderslice, who was then head of pro racing, Merrill, in a prior life, was the head wrench for Lucky Strikes, Yamaha Lucky Strikes, which was Kenny Roberts' GP team.
Yeah.
And so he gave me a real FIM tech sticker, and so I have that on the nose of the bike, and so that it's like looks like the bike that Kenny Roberts raced the first year he went to Europe and raced his 250.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, the other question I have for you: this coming race coming up in May, I believe, at Thompson. Are you going to teach the class again about?
Yeah. It's that's a good point, Larry. So the USRA holds a school at every single race that we race throughout the season. So there's we start this year for the first time in the history of the USCRA. In May, we'll be at Thompson Speedway in Thompson, Connecticut, and then we'll be at Canaan, New Hampshire, for some races, and then we'll end the season at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in September. But at every single one of those races, Dave Evans and myself are the instructors. We run a school, and the school starts the night before the race, and we have a track walk and a classroom portion. We walk you through the ins and outs of the things that you have to know, the things you have to be aware of, all the things that you need to be able to go out and have fun and race safe. Not the things, we don't teach you how to go fast. That would be a second phase.
That's another deal.
This is how you can go out and have fun and be safe. And then you take practice with us on the race day. We take you out in practice and we evaluate you. You have a rookie race, and provided that you don't fall down and provided that you don't cause an incident, you get your race license and you can enter all the races that you want and have a blast.
I'll tell you, Devin loved it. That I'll tell you. He still talks about it that day, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's a great club. The USCRA is a great club, great people. I would encourage anyone who's ever thought about or had interest. It's a great time. You'll find that it's a really great family. It's not a clique, and you'll have a lot of fun.
Bob, as usual, time is flying, but I cannot thank you enough.
Thanks
for this coming to visit us, and I look forward to May.
Look forward to seeing you there, Larry.
To see those 2 gorgeous bikes.
Thank you very much.
Or 3.
3, yeah.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much.
All right. Want to thank you for watching the show, and I hope we see you at Thompson Speedway in May to the USCRA Vintage Race. Thank you, and good night.
Follow us on Instagram at nutmeg.tv.